Did he do it?
The jurors saw the actual cut, the hole in his Porsche, and then they saw the damage done from that Molotov cocktail where the red interior is ruined and darkened by the fire that started in his car. Cudi, throughout his testimony, insinuated that it was Combs. People started laughing in the courtroom as he's describing how he first sees Combs. He said, "I entered this room and Combs was looking out of a window with his hands behind his back like a Marvel supervillain." At the end of that meeting, Kid Cudi described shaking Combs' hand and saying, "But let's talk about my car." And Combs said, "I don't know what you're talking about." And then he just left.
Sean Diddy Combs isn't just a rap star. With over 3 decades in the entertainment industry, he's become a powerful figure in American pop culture. Known for discovering and launching icons like Notorious B.I.G. and Mary J. Blige, Diddy was once hailed as the Midas of music. Everything he touched turned to gold. But behind all the glitz and glamour lies a world the public has never truly seen. A world where power, money, and control are entangled in some of the darkest secrets of showbiz. Since the early 2000s, rumors have swirled around Diddy's strange private life. All-night parties inside multi-million-dollar mansions, attended by everyone from supermodels to politicians, were kept strictly under wraps. Several insiders in the entertainment industry have hinted at a secret world within a secret world, where major players like Diddy weren't just throwing parties, they were running their own private power structures. These whispers stayed just that, rumors, until the RICO trial began, and the pieces finally started falling into place. The RICO case, short for Racketeer-Influenced and Corrupt Organizations, is usually reserved for the mafia or criminal enterprises. So when a figure like Diddy gets pulled into a RICO investigation, it signals something way beyond the usual Hollywood scandals. This isn't about cheating scandals or drunken antics. These are allegations of a full-blown criminal operation involving threats, break-ins, human trafficking, and arson. Diddy being dragged into the spotlight hasn't just shaken the entertainment world. It's made people rethink who's really behind the curtain of Hollywood glamour. When someone who used to be seen as the blueprint for success gets caught in the storm, it sends a chilling message. No one is truly untouchable. And the dark side of the entertainment industry has never looked more terrifying. Kid Cudi, real name Scott Mescudi, isn't the type of artist you'd expect to see caught up in a Hollywood scandal. He's not loud on social media, avoids drama, and often refers to himself as a lonely soul in a noisy world. With emotionally raw music, filled with introspection and a touch of melancholy, Cudi has always been a voice for young people struggling with mental health, isolation, and existential crises. From Day and Night to his deeply personal tracks about depression, Kid Cudi isn't just a rapper. He's become a symbol of healing through music. That's why his involvement in a case involving threats to his life, arson, and violence caught so many by surprise. When Cudi testified, he didn't yell or try to portray himself as a victim. Instead, he recounted everything in a calm, detailed, almost eerily composed manner, which, ironically, made the courtroom shudder even more. His connection to Cassie Ventura, a singer and model who was Diddy's longtime girlfriend, goes back to around 2011.
Cudi had a brief relationship with Cassie Ventura during this time, and Combs allegedly made threats against him because of it. Cudi testifying that he believes Combs actually broke into his house and testified that a few months later, a Molotov cocktail was placed on his Porsche, damaging his car. He told the jury he reached out to Combs after his car caught fire and described him with his hands behind his back like a Marvel supervillain. Combs has pleaded not guilty to all charges, and his defense team says any sexual encounters were all consensual. Legal contributor Eric Faddis joins me now for more. So, Eric, what do you think? How does Mescudi's testimony impact Combs' arson charges and the racketeering conspiracy counts that he faces, you think?
Yeah, Kira, I think we're firmly moving into RICO territory here. We're getting past some of the sex trafficking allegations, talking about a criminal enterprise that was allegedly engaged in committing crimes. And so Kid Cudi's testimony goes to trying to prove some of those predicate offenses. He says that Diddy and his team burglarized his home after Diddy found out that he was dating Cassie Ventura, and then shortly thereafter blew up his vehicle, which goes to arson. And so that was really the thrust of the testimony. That was the purpose for putting him on. There were some points scored by defense as well. It was some colorful testimony.
That was when Cassie and Diddy were going through a rough patch but hadn't officially broken up. According to multiple friends in the industry, Cudi and Cassie shared a low-key artistic bond. They both loved creativity and sought peace amid chaos. But what they didn't realize was that their quiet connection touched a nerve they never should have: Diddy's ego and his grip on power. Cudi once recounted a chilling phone call from Cassie. Her voice trembled as she said, "Diddy found out. He asked me for your address, and I accidentally gave it to him." In that moment, Cudi didn't just hear fear, he felt danger creeping closer. A man like Diddy, with money, connections, and influence, if provoked, the consequences could be very real and very brutal. And what followed felt like something straight out of a horror movie.
Criminal actions committed by Combs during Mescady's brief relationship with Cassie Ventura in 2011, during an apparent breakup between Cassie and Combs.
Kid Cudi had dated Cassie Ventura, and she testified that it made Sean Combs jealous and angry.
Mescady testifying about an alleged break-in at his house in 2011, which he says was Combs showing up when he wasn't home. Mescady testifying that he had a tense phone call with Combs, where Combs insinuates he was at Mescady's home. "I said, expletive, you in my house?" And he was like, "What's up?" I was like, "Expletive, are you in my house?" And he said, "I just want to talk to you." I was like, "I'm on my way over right now." He was like, "I'm here." When he arrived, Combs was not there.
But he said Christmas presents he had bought for members of his family were unwrapped, torn open, and his dog was locked in the bathroom.
Mescady says he later called police, who took a report. But the headline moment of this testimony, Mescady describing an alleged 2012 incident where his Porsche 911 convertible had been set on fire. "It looks like the top of my Porsche was cut open, and that's where they inserted the Molotov cocktail," Mescady testified. Arson is part of the racketeering conspiracy count Combs faces. Cassie Ventura previously testified that Combs threatened to have Kid Cudi's car blown up.
But even before that, Cudi had noticed something strange. His house had been broken into. Nothing was stolen, but odd details sent chills down his spine.
Though he was confused about why it would matter if Sean Combs knew that he was dating Cassie, because he had no reason to believe that they were still romantically involved. Remember, Kid Cudi had been dating Cassie, he says, for about a year at this point. He went and he got her from her apartment, and he took her to the only place he thought would keep her safe, which is the Sunset Marquis. It's a hotel in LA. So in this phone call with Cassie, she says, "Look, Diddy knows we're dating. He asked for your address. I gave him your address, and I'm so scared right now." So he goes and he picks her up at her place and takes her to the Sunset Marquis Hotel. While they're there, they got a phone call from a friend of Cassie's who said, "I'm sitting in front of your house right now, Kid Cudi. Sean Combs and an associate of his are inside your house." And that's when he was like, "What is going on?" He said he was angry. So he gets in his car. He said it was a Porsche 911 convertible. And on his way to the house, that's when he's starting to get worried about, what am I walking into? Could Combs have weapons? Who else could be there at the house? Could this turn violent? Although he said he did want to fight Combs for breaking into his house. And so he called 911, but he also called Combs and he said, "Why are you in my house?" And he said, "I'm on my way." So when he got to his house, Diddy wasn't there. What he did notice was that his surveillance cameras were turned the other way. Some Christmas presents were unwrapped from Chanel for his family. And that also his dog was in a bathroom with the door closed.
He called the police, but there was no clear evidence linking Diddy to these incidents, until the trial began, and all the puzzle pieces began snapping into place. From an artist simply wanting to create in peace, Kid Cudi suddenly found himself at the heart of a case that could shake Hollywood to its core. But what's admirable is that he stood up and told his story, not for fame, but because he believed it was time the truth came to light. When Kid Cudi described how his Porsche had been set on fire, the entire courtroom seemed to hold its breath.
Last week, we heard Cassie testify about Combs threatening to set fire to his Porsche. Talk to me about what he said inside today about that incident.
Kid Cudi and Cassie stopped dating after this whole incident in which Combs allegedly broke into his house. So on this particular night, he's staying at an ex-girlfriend's house, and while he's there, early in the morning, he gets a call from his dog's babysitter who's house sitting for him and says, "Your car's on fire in the driveway." So he instructs her to call 911. The authorities and the fire department show up at his house, and then he calls a friend to go there and start taking pictures of his car. When he gets there, authorities are already at the scene, and what they find is something called a Molotov cocktail. That was a bottle with liquid in it and a rag that had been set on fire, and somebody had cut the roof of his convertible and dropped it inside. And then we saw pictures of all this damage today, and he said that unfortunately his car could not be repaired. So police collected all of this evidence, and there was some sort of an investigation. But today we heard on cross-examination Brian Steele, who's a very famous attorney out of Atlanta who represented Young Thug in his state RICO case. And he got up there and really tried to poke holes in this idea that Combs was the one who destroyed his Porsche. And he said, look, there was an investigation, nobody was charged, and they even took DNA evidence and fingerprints at the scene. And what connects Combs to this incident, right? Because all we really know is that Cassie said that Combs threatened to do this, but there isn't any security footage. There isn't any proof that Combs either told somebody to do it or actually did it himself.
This wasn't the first time the public had heard rumors about it. Whispers about the incident had floated around the music scene for years. But this was the first time Cudi himself confirmed it publicly. And more than that, he laid it out in such vivid detail that it felt like watching a real-life crime thriller unfold in real time.
Kid Cudi's car fire has been talked about for years, but it's significant now because federal prosecutors are trying to convince the jury that Sean Combs used arson as part of a criminal enterprise. That's one of the predicate acts of the racketeering conspiracy charge. Combs denies it.
Combs denies all the charges against him.
According to court testimony, the call didn't involve yelling or threats. Cudi simply asked, "What the hell are you doing?" And Diddy, cold as ice, replied, "I just wanted to talk. I was at your house, but I didn't take anything." Cudi said the exchange felt like talking to a comic book villain, a Marvel-style antihero, standing there calmly with his hands behind his back, always dangerous and in control. Prosecutors presented photos of the burned car in court, along with the Molotov cocktail remains and audio recordings of testimonies from both Cudi and Cassie. One particularly damning moment came when Cassie's voice was played for the jury. "If you keep going, he's going to do something to you. You don't know Diddy like I do." What once sounded like overblown celebrity drama suddenly felt deadly serious. Then came another shocking moment. Kid Cudi testified that he ran into Diddy just a few days after the fire, at a small party. Diddy walked up to him, patted him on the shoulder, and said, "I didn't mean anything by it, Scott." Cudi gave him a tight smile and walked away. But inside, and now in front of the law, he knew exactly what had happened. The car fire wasn't just about property damage. It became part of the broader RICO case against Diddy, alleging that he ran a criminal enterprise involving threats, intimidation, and violence to maintain control. That burnt Porsche was no longer just a destroyed luxury car. It had become a symbol, a warning, and a crucial piece of evidence in exposing the shadows behind the spotlight of fame. In response to Cudi's testimony and the mounting evidence of break-ins and arson, Diddy quickly issued a denial.
No one was ever prosecuted. There's no direct evidence at all linking Sean Combs. And that's a problem. It's enough for the court of public opinion, but it's not enough for a court of law where proof beyond a reasonable doubt is required. Do we think he did it? Heck yes, we think he did it. But I don't know if that's enough to prove arson as one of those crimes that they've alleged was part of his RICO criminal enterprise.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Apart from the fact that he threatened to do it before it was actually done, he didn't. There's no evidence that he used a staff member or anyone in his enterprise to do that either. I was more interested in the break-in and an assistant named Capricorn Clark, who apparently Kid Cudi said screamed to him on the phone, "I was forced into a car and forced to drive with Diddy to your home where I am parked right now, and he is in there in your home right now." To me, that screamed with a receipt almost of forced labor and coercive behavior within your enterprise to commit a crime.
Yeah, it's possible. It's not enough to show he's a really bad guy. It is definitely not enough to show that he is an abuser, which they have proven beyond all doubt. They must show these crimes.
It was how he and his legal team responded to the new stream of evidence and witness accounts. They offered no clear explanation for why Diddy was in Cudi's house that night. They didn't address why the security cameras were tampered with. And they made no compelling argument to refute Cassie Ventura's account, a woman who not only dated Diddy but also accused him of years of toxic control and intimidation. What made it even more disturbing was that Kid Cudi wasn't the only one with stories like this. Throughout the trial, several individuals who had attended Diddy's infamous Freakoff parties came forward to testify. Some claimed they were invited only to realize these weren't just wild parties. They were covert casting calls, where powerful figures from the music and fashion worlds would engage in twisted games. A few witnesses said it felt like something out of Eyes Wide Shut, complete with masks, secret guest lists, and an unspoken rule: don't ever talk about this outside.
First look inside Combs' Miami mansion the day federal agents busted the gate open last year to raid it. A federal agent testifying about the evidence, guns and ammo seized from Diddy's home that were found near alleged Freakoff supplies, which included dozens of bottles of baby oil and boxes of platform heels, bondage restraints, and bundles of rope. Also photographed as evidence that day, motivational messages on Combs' bathroom mirror that included "You a legend" and "Upward motion," and drugs. Lots of drugs, including ones found in plastic bags inside a Gucci bag, and orange tablets with the Tesla logo that tested positive for ecstasy. Now, Combs has pleaded not guilty to all allegations in this case.
So we just got new exhibits today. Take a look at these photos that prosecutors have just released. They're pictures of Diddy's former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, with what she says are bruises on her back and legs, which you can see here, and also a gash above her eye. Also released today, some pictures from when Diddy was arrested in September of last year at the Park Hyatt Hotel in New York. And a special agent with Homeland Security testified last week that some of the items found included baby oil, drugs, these pink packets of ketamine. There's also this image of a knife wedged in a door. Now, Combs, we aren't sure if he's going to be taking a stand in his own defense, but he denies all of the allegations against him. But will all of these witnesses really prove the government's charges that he was running this criminal empire and that he's guilty of sex trafficking?
And Diddy wasn't the only name being mentioned. Some testimonies also pointed to the presence of other high-profile individuals: rappers, directors, even people from the political world. While these figures haven't been formally investigated, their alleged involvement has prompted the public to draw comparisons between this unfolding case and past power abuse scandals, like those involving Jeffrey Epstein and Harvey Weinstein. As the trial gained momentum, online communities began to dig into long-buried rumors about Diddy. Articles that had mysteriously disappeared, interviews that had been scrubbed from platforms, and warnings that had previously been dismissed as conspiracy theories. Social media exploded. On Twitter and Reddit, hashtags like #DiddyTruth and #RICO Files trended as people asked how many others were hurt but never spoke up. Influencers, artists, and major YouTubers started weighing in, offering commentary and breakdowns from their own perspectives, causing the scandal to spread like wildfire. What made things even more bizarre was Diddy's public behavior in the middle of the chaos. While the internet was ablaze with outrage and speculation, Diddy made a calm appearance at a fashion event in Miami. Smiling, posing for photos, and even posting on Instagram with the caption, "My heart is at peace." To many, it was seen as shameless. To others, it looked like a calculated PR move, an attempt to project calm and control in the face of growing accusations. But no carefully crafted image could overshadow the storm Diddy now faced. If the allegations against him continue to hold up in court, he could become the most high-profile artist ever to be taken down under a RICO case, something usually reserved for mafia bosses and criminal cartels. The moment Kid Cudi's testimony hit the media, the floodgates opened. One eerie element that sent chills down people's spines was how closely the Diddy situation mirrored the playbook of Jeffrey Epstein and Harvey Weinstein. A wealthy man controlling exclusive private parties, surrounded by vulnerable young people, relying on silence, high-powered lawyers, and a well-managed public image to dodge real scrutiny. Diddy wasn't being compared to fellow rappers anymore. He was being likened to men who had once sat atop vast, sinister empires. Naturally, the question arose: why did it take until 2025 for people to speak out? The answer was fear. People who had worked with Diddy described him as a lion in a tuxedo, polished on the outside, but always commanding, always in control. Some said they had once tried to come forward about the strange gatherings at his Miami mansion, only to lose contracts, sponsors, and even receive anonymous, threatening phone calls afterward. The internet wasn't just outraged. It was on a mission. Users began reanalyzing old moments once seen as normal but now seen through a darker lens. The way Diddy looked at people close to Cassie, his icy response when asked about Kid Cudi in an old interview, or the cryptic remarks made by younger rappers who had once worked with him. Tiny details that were once brushed aside suddenly seemed like cultural evidence in a much larger takedown.